What's up everybody and welcome to the damn video. I hope you're well. I'm great. Thank you for asking. Hi, when's that going to get boring? I don't know.
It's not boring yet.
It's not boring yet, so. I'm going to tell you how to get some dense muscle today. Techniques, tips, tricks, things that you may not know that will 100% contribute to your ability to gain dense tissue. And I've got density day today. We call this density day. It's literally just the name. It doesn't mean anything, but it's essentially legs and back put together. Mostly posterior chain focused. There is, I think there's a leg press in it, just so I touch my quads a little bit more over the week. But it's mostly posterior chain, so there's a little bit of hamstrings. There's a rack pull in there. There's some glute hip thrust in there, and then I think we do a leg press, and then we'll go into back afterwards. But we call this density because it's kind of density from the back. It's just a catchy name. It doesn't mean anything. But there are things that we can do to maximize our density. And I think just before we even get into the bulk of the video, I'm going to give you a tip. And the first thing is going to be intensity, because a lot of people don't train intense enough. People who train with rate of perceived exertion, people who train with all-out failure like I do, there has to be a common denominator of intensity. And a lot of people who are doing RPE work or rate of perceived exertion work, which is where you would say, okay, I want you to stop the set at 7 out of 10. That 7 out of 10 for most people is actually like a 3 out of 10. You know, if you're pushing it as hard as you can do, that intensity needs to be ramped up, and your true 3 reps from failure is going to be a lot further than a lot of people are going. We know that the more intense that you work out, the higher motor unit threshold that you recruit. We know that if you're recruiting a high amount of motor units, we know that if you're recruiting a high amount of motor units, you are recruiting a high amount of muscle tissue, more muscle tissue than you would be if you weren't going through that motion. So first and foremost, train intense, guys. Make sure you're working hard enough. It's time for breaky. About it. I'm filming on I'm filming on my Canon 80D today, and I noticed, obviously you can't see this, but this tracks my face on here so well. If anyone's got the Canon G7X Mark III, let me know what you think about the autofocus. It's killing me, and it's so annoying because this camera is obviously big and bulky, and obviously the quality's better and the mic's better. I've got a microphone on top of this one, but the Canon is super compact. I can put it in my pocket. I can, it's easy for traveling. It's easy for like going shopping and stuff like that. But the autofocus on it is just painful. Sometimes I open it and it's blurry, and I have to like turn the camera off to even get the camera in focus. It's very, very frustrating. If anyone else is having this problem, let me know. It's time to train. It's density day. Are you ready?
Ready, Eddie.
Heads, bring the chaos. Tails, berserk. I've only ever had this like 3 times.
What was that?
Yeah, I've had this a few more times. But they're both equal. Strong as fuck.
Just like you.
Okay, so. Are you going to call it? You got to call it.
What?
You got to call heads or tails.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Wait, which one was which?
Heads, tails.
Okay.
Heads.
Heads it is.
Yes, this is what I want.
Bring the chaos. Fuck's sake.
Josh Boseman living the high life.
Yeah.
Buys a Ferrari, does his pre-workout in the car.
So last week we were in the Ferrari. Now we're in my shitty A3.
Your shitty, stinky A3.
Which is approximately 16 years old this year. And also we're reusing these bottles because we're actually not bottle users.
No, we're not.
We
just got caught short yesterday.
Got caught short yesterday walking around, and this is empty. So apologies, Extinction Rebellion, don't find me, don't chase me down. So something I get asked a lot is like how I warm up. Do I do any kind of particular stretching for anything like that? And more often than not, I just warm up in the movement. The reason is because I'm just trying to build that neurological connection, that movement pattern, and acclimatizing my muscle and basically acclimatizing the movement pattern to getting heavier. And in doing so, my joints are getting warm, tendons are getting warm, my muscles are getting warmer, and I'm not going to go into that top set until I know and I feel like I'm fully locked in and ready. So I don't do anything special, I just warm up in the movement. I find if I'm doing extra stretching, I'm going to lose that tension. If I'm doing any kind of extra mobility work, I'm going to lose that tension on the muscle. So we just go through the motions. My top set's down here, right at the bottom. So I'm just kind of working my way forward, and I'll just pick the weights accordingly.
Yeah. Up.
Brutal.
Push.
God damn. So, that session is savage, as you can imagine. Let me take this off so you can see my beautiful face. That session is savage, as you can imagine. Hitting legs like that and then going into like a back session, you've got to be very, very careful of the amount of volume that you're doing. Everything I do is only 2 sets, all out to failure. And I've actually kind of pulled away from the higher rep ranges as well, so they're all kind of two lots of 6 to 10, except for 1 or 2 sets on there. And you've just got to be mindful of how much you're doing and if you're able to recover for the next session. I've got push in 3 days, 4 days, so I've got to make sure that this session isn't too taxing in terms of pull. That's why I literally did the unilateral pull downs, the almost like, well, I was supposed to do a T-bar row, but we don't have that here, so like a wide grip row, and then into just some pull-ups at the end, which I didn't film. So literally just three exercises, 2 sets each, simple. Next tip coming at you. I made an Instagram post on this yesterday, just talking about the perfect reps and how I consider the perfect rep. Now, we all know lifting weight is going to build density because density is essentially just more muscle, but how you lift the weight can massively influence your ability to gain muscle, right? So more often than not, I'm telling people to spend more time in the eccentric portion of the motion, which is where the muscle is lengthening. So let's take a bicep curl. As you curl it up, that is the concentric. As you come down, that is the eccentric as the muscle is lengthening. Now we know, we can see how much muscle is being recruited. Now we know there is a massive amount of muscle being recruited concentrically. There's a massive amount of muscle being recruited eccentrically. Actually, eccentrically is more energy efficient and you'll use much less energy during that phase. So it makes sense to spend more time of tension there. Not only that, but if you're in a bench press and you're coming down slowly, it's going to remove inertia, all that bounce. It's also going to remove, it's not going to remove all of it, but it's going to remove any kind of destabilization, which could push the emphasis onto passive tissues. For example, tendons, ligaments. You can imagine as you're bouncing it, it's a lot of force through your ligaments and tendons trying to keep you stable. Whereas you're coming controlled, you can really focusing on lengthening the muscle and then contracting the full muscle. So not only is it for safety, longevity, but you're also going to get more onto the active tissue, or AKA the tissue that you want to get. So focus on your eccentrics, guys. Stop bouncing weights around. I can't tell you how many people I've trained with or seen who bounce it around. Some famous people on here who you guys have seen before, bouncing weights around. It might feel great, it might look great, but I'm trying to lift forever, you know, and if you're constantly doing this, you're going to compromise your joint integrity, you're going to compromise your ligament and tendon integrity, and we want to be doing this 10, 15, 20 years. And trust me, those guys are not going to be doing. That's why you can see a lot of pros get huge injuries. You know, ruptured biceps, ligaments coming off, ruptured hamstrings. It's because they're not taking care of this kind of stuff. We're steaming up here. That's time to go. See you at home. Who would have thought Cocoa Pops? After a long prep of eating Cocoa Pops, I still want to eat Cocoa Pops. Next thing, surplus. Get yourself in a calorie surplus. You ain't going to build that density as well as someone in a surplus if you're in a deficit. Why? Because we need an abundance of protein, an abundance of calories to be able to put on the muscle you want. A positive nitrogen balance coupled with intense training, you're going to reap some more rewards in terms of density. So intensity builds density, food builds density, controlling your goddamn reps build density. I'm going to eat this. I'm going to give you your final tip before we end this video. So to finish off my tips of building a dense ass physique, you're going to notice that the answers to this is very similar to building muscle in general. Just doing anything in general to do a bodybuilding, because the principles are pretty similar, and it's going to be rest and time. So first of all, when you're training, you're not building muscle, right? First, you're actually breaking muscle down, like biologically. On a cellular level, we are breaking down, we are increasing muscle protein breakdown when we train. But obviously in doing those little microfibril tears, we are then telling our body to build back stronger. Right, but that comes with rest. So you have to rest. For example, the session you saw today is very central nervous system demanding. Yeah, there's a big pull in there. There's a big squat in there. Then you go on to train back. It's very fatiguing, right? So I have a rest day yesterday, and we also have a rest day tomorrow. People are afraid to rest. I see people run push-pull legs with one day at the end of it, and I just think, where are you growing? If you're consistently breaking down muscle the whole time, and you've got to consider that every movement you do is a full body movement. If I'm locked in here for a pull, my calves are engaged, my core is engaged, my chest is up here, and I'm trying to fight positions. Cool, it might not be the direct targeted muscle, but everything is engaged. So if you're constantly engaging everything every single day, you're not giving yourself enough opportunity to rest. So rest when it's needed. Time speaks for itself. The densest, biggest physiques on this planet are the ones who've been doing it the longest. And that's the biggest secret that no one seems to realize, and no one seems to want to know. Josh, how'd you get so big? I've been lifting 10 years, motherfuckers. I've been lifting 10 long years, and I'm still nowhere near where, you know, some of these big guys are. Sure, a lot of it be down to the drugs they use and stuff, but these guys have been doing it for a long time. So if you want to build the biggest, the densest physique that you can, make sure you rest, make sure you put the time in, make sure you put the intensity and effort in, make sure you eat adequately, make sure you do the fundamentals well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little bit more of a talking video. We haven't done these in a while, so enjoy. We'll speak to you soon. We'll be back very soon. Peace and love. Bye-bye.